welcome to Floyd Models Kit Review Time. Today we've got Tamiya's latest kit. This is the 132nd de Havilland Mosquito. This is the Mark 6. What can I say? We've been waiting for this kit for a while. Bit of a surprise to a lot of people when this one came out. It was a surprise to me as well because obviously I was aware Hong Kong models were doing their one and then Tamiya sort of slipped theirs in under the radar, which is, you know, kudos to them for keeping it under wraps for so long. Immediately I found out this was coming out through a couple of my sources. I knew what this one was going to be. I knew about its new systems and some incredible detail they were planning on this kit. So immediately I was thinking, okay, Hong Kong models, Tamiya. Price wise, there isn't going to be much between the two. I think I'm going to hold out and actually go for this kit, and boy am I glad I did. As we can see, stunning box art on this particular one. Beautifully done like that. This is the export version, which we'll talk about in a moment, but basically it means you get the clear covers. Now I must admit I'm not a fan of these. I think they're a little bit gimmicky. I think if you're going to display it, just take them off. And this is the same as the Spitfire, I do believe, so it has the magnetic system. The cowls and things like that are beautifully thin, some of the thinnest injection moulding I've seen on kits, so they are a true scale. So why you'd actually want to put clear ones on is a little bit beyond me. Anyway, you can see nice gold lettering on there. Looking around the kit, we can see we've got some of the markings that we've got down there. So we've got 305 Squadron of Larsham Airfield, Spring 1944, or we've got one down here for number 1 Squadron in Borneo, which is quite striking in the silver. Okay, so your kit number for this particular one is, what is the kit number? There we go. You can see it down there. So there we go. It's 60362. Okay. And then down here we can have a look at what we can expect. And when you see it like that, it just looks like their 148th one, but obviously this thing is a monster. But as you can see, we've got detailed internals. So we've got the guns and the bomb bay. Lots of internals down there. And then here's what we were talking about earlier with obviously the cowl all completely removed, so you can show it open or closed. Also, look what we get here. So we've got a lot of photo etch and we've got a mask set as well. So really is nice. Now I haven't even looked in this box. I deliberately not looked at any reviews online because I like to obviously do it myself. So this is the first time I've looked at it. Talking of the export version down here, I had this on order, to be honest, with HobbyLink Japan, as I do a lot of new kits, purely because they tend to get them first. I can get them here and get them out to review you. They tend to be a little bit cheaper, but by the time you put postage and customs on, they're no cheaper anyway. But purely from a time point of view, I tend to get them out of either Hong Kong or Japan direct. This time though, Tamiya have decided that they're actually going to wait and stagger in a 3-tier system as they're releasing them around the world. So the export version, or the EU version as well, comes with the clear parts, which is pretty standard these days, but apparently they're releasing it 2 months earlier than they are in home for the domestic ones in Japan, which seems really weird. And also Tamiya now are being very legal minded, if you like, about so-called sort of grey sales, i.e. people who are wholesaling to Europe. If they found that the companies are wholesaling to Hong Kong or to Europe and things like that, that actually Tamiya are going to refuse to sell to them and all the rest of it. So seems to be a little bit like Airfix have done, where they're saying, right, okay, it has to be bricks and mortar, no more grey sales via eBay and things like that. So if you are looking for them, gone are the days where you'd have to wait ages for them to appear in the UK, you know, and obviously everybody else has got one. Now they tend to be appearing outwards and then coming back to their own domestic market, which is kudos to them. So in the box, taking off this fantastic lid, which I don't know if it will stand up on its own. Get something heavy to weight the back of this thing down. I don't think it's even going to do that. So we might just have to lean it back just a little bit. We get reflection. Wow, what can you say? We are absolutely stuffed. I knew it was going to be stuffed because of the weight of this kit, but as you can see down here, straight off the bat, we've got a nice section for our clear parts. So we've got a box down there or something going on. No, it's not, it's just a cover to protect everything. Everything is individually bagged, so, you know, right off the bat, it's a case of, right, where do you start? So I always like to start with the instruction thing, so let's find that goodie bag, which you can see is a massive bag. So if we just move this out of the way. Now we're going to take our time and we're going to work our way through everything on this particular one, as you can imagine, being quite in depth. So straight off the bat here, we're going to jump straight into the bag with all the instructions and things in. Okay, so just fold that down so it doesn't get stuck. Now, it'd be interesting to see how this goes along, because we have seen this type of thing before. So we've seen the situation obviously in 124th with Airfix, and then we've seen it obviously with the 148, which is a beautiful kit as well, obviously from Tamiya themselves. So there's different ways of putting this kit together, and we've obviously looked at the Hong Kong one as well. So it's different ways of doing it. So first of all, we've got a very nice colourful sheet, very reminiscent to their 148th one. It's obviously talking about the cans, which we won't worry about at all, but it's showing here the Royal New Zealand Air Force one of 487 Squadron. Looking quite nice. I'd say, to be honest, I was expecting slightly better artwork, but it gives you a good idea. You can see where obviously all the riveting is, all the panel lines are, and everything else like that. So generally it's a pretty nice system. And then down in here, let's have a look at this one first. Like we've been seeing with a lot of their builds recently, we've been getting a situation where we've actually got some of this in-depth research that they share with us. So it's talking about obviously how it's actually made. We all know that this thing is known as the Wooden Wonder and was made in furniture places and piano stores and stuff like that. And being wood, it makes it uber light, uber fast, because you've got two Merlin engines strapped onto a wooden, and it goes really, really quick. Also, it was quite good at taking damage because of being wooden construction. So there is different versions of this. Obviously there's night fighters, there's the bomber version, which is the Mark IV, which is the Hong Kong models version. So I wouldn't be surprised if we didn't see different versions of this later on. They even did a naval version of this. So there we go, coming on with these different types of things. Talking about the different versions that we were talking about, so you got the fighter prototype, reconnaissance prototype ones, the sort of family tree of the actual Mosquito. And then here we are showing the different weapons fit that it can actually carry, which is pretty numerous. This is the bomber version. This is why I'm thinking we are going to see both versions of this definitely coming out. We're going to see it as a bomber and as a fighter reconnaissance version, as well as other types, perhaps with upkeep bombs and various things like that. So you can see some nice reference photos as well. I'm just wondering where these come from. Military Aviation. Oh, this is the Virginia Beach. I didn't know if they found the New Zealand one. I've been crawling over that, but this is a beautiful one. Some very nice reference photos, as you can imagine, right the way through these ones. The only thing, as I said, I would be very wary of is obviously references. They tend to be sort of Frankenstein type aircraft, because they're made up of other ones, so just be careful what your references. Okay, so here we go. Usual thing with Tamiya, lots of blurb, multiple languages, as you can imagine, all the way through. Okay, talking about taking parts off and things like that. Your options, you've got A, B and C versions down here. Obviously these are all going to be the fighter versions, and then it's going to be straight in. So very reminiscent of their actual 148 scale, starting straight in with the cockpit. Lots of detail going in here, as you can imagine, because of this scale. We have got photo etch for the harnesses and things like that. You might want to switch them out for fabric, if I'm honest. But going through, very nice details, high level of detail all the way through, building up, as you can imagine, right the way through. Very nice that we've actually got the harnesses fit to the pilots as well, something I've been talking about recent builds. Or you can have them out, the option is yours. Okay, and as you can see, lovely detail all this through. I'm imagining that this decal system is going to be the same as the other, so don't panic if they look black when you take them off. They'll be clear on the inside, it's just the way they do them. And then laminating them all together, which does work exceptionally well. From what I've heard from a couple of guys I know have already built this thing, is that you won't need any aftermarket on the internals for certain. Okay, so we've got the guns. Obviously we've got the smaller 7.7s Brownings in the actual nose, and then obviously you've got the other ones underneath, the heavier calibers underneath. Okay, and then right the way through the magazines for those. So again, can be shown open or closed. More of this gorgeous internals. Very reminiscent the way this goes in of the real aircraft. I assume it's going to be a one-piece wing section going through. Okay, and then as you can imagine going through, options, full fuel tanks with closed or open or half and all the rest of it. So you've got various options how you want to have it open. Front going on, which again lends me to believe we're going to get different noses on this thing. So the bomber version, perhaps the radar version is coming along later on. Okay, and then coming in, again, lovely detail. The nose section, the actual nose cone itself going on and aiming. We've got the tail as well for the bulkheads, which is quite a nice touch of this going in. Looks to be very strong the way this is going to go together, and extremely reminiscent of the real aircraft, because it looks like our wing system is going to push up, which it does, from the bottom on both parts. So that's going to be very interesting. So they're going to go in, it's going to be a nice, strong, square system. And then we're straight into the engine now. I'm assuming this is just the standard Merlin engine that we've seen in the Spitfire and in the the Mustang, with a few modifications, and those are greatly detailed. We've got the supercharger there on the bottom, okay, and then right the way in, making up a great looking engine right the way through. The gear and the bracing, sorry, this is the actual framework for the main engines, and everything else for the engine mounts, and then for the subframes, those all going in very nice. It's all bolted together again, showing great strength all the way through. Now this is one thing I have heard about with the Hong Kong models one, the undercarriage extremely weak, again for such a big model, so just being careful. This one, it'll be interesting to see how this one all fits in, because obviously we have got these long pegs coming down directly off the bottom of the engine, so I'm hoping they're going to obviously help out a lot of that. Very nice ribbing, as I say, we've got actually photo etch ribbing going down on the inside of the wheel wells. Again, lovely attention to detail with all of those. And then we got the front on, so we've got the cooling tank on the front of the engine, and then the hose working to the rear, and again the same for the other side. Lovely detail on all of this, must admit, very, very nice. Then we're straight into the wing root. So this is what we're talking about. It's a one-piece subframe that's going to hold your wing section and the engines and everything, and bolt to the underside. What does this mean? It means it makes it incredibly strong. Something where the Hawker Typhoon that we've done recently in 24 has it, but the gear is the weak point, because obviously it's just very thinly attached to the actual model. This looks a lot better. It's actually bolted into it all. So we've got the radiators fitting in. I imagine you're going to be opening up all your holes and various bits and pieces. It's a screw bolt fix for the top of the wing to the lower, which is quite a nice touch, putting those on and then putting them in as well, with the covers going over the top. Positionable flaps, as we should imagine, on these different types of tips for different variants as well, and then coming along. Then we've got the fuel tanks being fitted into the center section. As you can see, this really does go on. Then the gear itself, and this is what we're talking about. We have that long two prongs coming down in. They're going to fit down into the gear, which is something where apparently the HK one falls short. Very thin on that one. This one is different, and bolts it completely into position. So that's those are in. And then we got this, which was obviously mentioned a lot at the Hong Kong Model Show, because it's the first time we've seen it, where I know a lot of people are saying, like, why would you bother with all of that? Trust me guys, this will work really well. What this is a system where two halves of the wheel are going to go together, and you always have the seam line. Then, you know, I know it's not a massive job, but when you've got treaded tyres, to try and get that seam line out is going to be a little bit difficult, trying to get in between the tread. What Tamiya have done with this one, which is I do believe is the first, is actually do this system where you've got individual blocks running all the way round, to actually give you an effect so you have no center seam, because the natural groove between the rubber is your joints, so you don't worry about that anyway. So as long as you're careful with your gluing and you don't have it squeezing out everywhere, so i.e. liquid cements, nice thin glues that aren't going to show, you'll have no problem with it. So that is what we're talking about here. Those go in, and then you've got two hubs, and then they'll be painted, go on. So it makes it an incredibly easy fit system, and apparently it works really, really well from what I've heard. So very nice with that. And then this is what we're talking about. This is going to slide down onto these very firm, very strong poles, which are going to take care of any sort of wobble or anything you might get with a gear. Okay, and then putting in some smaller parts. And then those nacelles will actually then be fitted onto the wing section, and they're just going to drop in. You've got the old splash guard, or the mud guard type of thing going on underneath, and they're going to be fitted, and that will give you extra strength from the rear. And looking very nice. And then hosing work going on, again very nice. And then obviously you can imagine you've got all your details you can put in. You might want to liven it up again with a little bit of wire, which is something I'll probably do, just to give it that little bit more to look at right the way through. But again, looking at all these parts, very nice how it all goes in, extremely well detailed. Got all the radio equipment then going to fit in to the top of the wing section, so when it pushes up you can see it from underneath. There we go, seeing it underneath, and then showing how it's actually going to go up and lock in just down here. So you can see that you've actually got a tooth system, so it will go up, push into it, and then when it goes up it will lock. Okay, and then I do believe you've got a couple of bolts, or one bolt is going to bolt that up and lock the entire thing. Okay, very nice indeed. Then we're on to the underside. So we've got the 20mm cannons underneath the system there. So we've got the 4 going underneath. Lots of detail work going on those. We've got the bombs. So you've got your 500-pound bomb system. 2 of those down into there as well. Really, really nice. Bomb bay doors. Again, lovely detail. Lots of detail in this kit. Okay, and then running along, so you've got your actual ejector chutes for the 20mm cannons underneath being fitted in. full depth ones, and then obviously all the bracing work and the activators for the gear, and then working our way through. As you can see, lots of detail, different things. Flap system, looks like we've got positionable flaps on this as well, which is very nice, so we can do them up or down. Okay, and then working our way through. As you can see, this kit, if you wanted to, looking at it, is going to lend itself really well to the scratch builders, the guys who want to open this up. I know we've done it on the Typhoon back there. I think it wanted it because we were hiding too much detail, but this itself has got lovely ribbing work all the way through, the wings, things like that. You could easily open this up, and I can imagine if somebody wanted to, not that I'm going to, but I'm sure by the time we get to Telford, somebody's going to do this in wood, and it'll look absolutely stunning. Do it bare and it would look amazing. So there we go, right the way through, props going on, and then obviously all the cowls and the other bits and pieces being fitted on. Fuel tanks and the bomb racks being fitted in there, the doors all being fitted, no section going on, the covers, the last bits and pieces, as you can imagine. Framework on the inside. So you've actually got framework, which I didn't know about, for the canopy, is a subfit. It's not just part of the glasswork which fits on, which is again a very nice touch right the way through, and then showing you detailed about masking it and all those areas. Rudder system being put on right the way through. I'm wondering if that's going to be a soft fit for transport as well. Okay, and then obviously you can have it with the doors open, closed, with the boarding ladder, which I'm sure we all would. Great crew figure, and then obviously we're down into the back, and then some other little things at the back here for your actual decal placements, which there's more than you would think, as you can imagine, right the way over this, and your painting guides in there. I'm impressed. It looks absolutely stunning, and it's a case of like, where do you start? Start with a knife. Okay, so just a quick look in here. What we got in here is our bag with all the goodies in. So you might notice, I'm not going to get all these out, but we've got the magnets. Do not swallow these. Do not give them to your pets or the kids. Okay, they are very strong magnets, and you don't want them going around your system. But as you can imagine, we've got all the nuts, bolts, polycaps, and you get your obligatory little screwdriver. Right, okay, where are we going to start? Okay, let's try and mirror them up so we can see. Okay, so this here is Tamiya's legendary, extremely thin cowls. I think we only need to look at one, we can show the other. Now, the texture that these have actually got is beautifully done. It's a very nice satin texture. Hopefully you can see on the close-up, they are beautifully done. The only thing is, we have got some ejector pin marks in this. They are extremely shallow, but if you're looking, we actually have it, which, you know, we've spoken about it with Wingnut Wings, how they can produce stuff this big without an ejector pin on it. Why are Tamiya still putting ejector pins in? I don't know. I think they may have dropped the ball on this one. I wasn't expecting ejector pins all over the inside of removable parts. I thought they would do a better job, if I'm honest. So I must admit, I'm a little bit disappointed that other manufacturers can produce larger parts with nothing. And I'm not saying these are massively detailed. They are detailed, but I wouldn't say they are anything more than what we've seen with Wingnut Wings. The texture is very nice, okay, but generally, as I say, just a little bit disappointed those. But what you have got, this is because of the export version, you have got all the clear parts as well. And when they say they're clear, they're not really. They're like frosted, because unfortunately it's still got the texture that these have got. It's just that they spat clear plastic through this one, where they also did it grey on here. But those are a mirror. If we do these, because I think there is, these are the underside again, so these are all hopefully going to have, no, these have got ejector pins all over them as well. But this is what we're talking about, this slip molding process. As you can see how this actually is in this sort of subframe, the way it is, extremely clever the way that this is done. Okay, so the way this actually works is that it is sort of a multi-piece injection system, the way it all clamps in and goes through this, and then how it releases. But unfortunately, it's still got ejector pins all over it, which is annoying because it's actually got 4 down there. Okay, so I would have thought we wouldn't have seen them. Anyway, we have the clear part as well, but generally you can see beautiful detailing. This riveting is some of the finest I have ever seen in my life. That is absolutely stunning, to the point where you can just about see it. The panel lines are extremely fine, extremely crisp, very nice. Now this may be the drawback. If you want this level of detail, unfortunately you're going to have to pay the price, and actually be in a situation where you need more ejector pins to get this over. This is just going to be a matched pair for what we've just seen. And then that's about it there. So let's have a dive in the wings. Okay, so straight off the bat, as you can see, beautifully done. We have a very high level. Don't take any notice of this webbing stuff. You don't see it. It's just how the plastic, when it comes in, it pushes against and it cools. You get this webbing effect. But generally, just looking around at it, some of the things I'd love to point out is stuff like this. I hope you can see the level of detail just down in here is absolutely exquisite. It's fine, very, very fine, on a par with anything I've ever seen before. And in fact, I'd have to say this stuff down here is actually, I hope the camera can actually pick this up, is absolutely finest detail I think I've ever seen. It is extremely nice. Okay, bearing in mind this is textured, it would be wood in real life, okay, and then obviously it's laminated and various things. It is extremely nice, as you can imagine. Because of that detail, the price you pay is trying to get out of the mold, and again, a zillion and one ejector pin marks on the inside. But we can see some of these areas, very nice. It's just a shame there is so many ejector pins over this. Got ejector pins everywhere, but I think this is the price we're going to have to pay for having detail like this. And am I being picky? Ejector pins are all on the inside, you don't really see them. I don't know. Okay, this is just a copy of the other. Okay, we've got a correction, small correction sheet, just showing that one down there. So as you can see, it's just on about the actual door for getting in and out. Okay, so next screw. Now, again, don't forget this is all wood in real life, so you know you're not expecting detail on this. It should be as it is. It's all laminated wood right the way through, to the point where you've actually got some areas like this one down here. Unfortunately, and I know I'm being picky, but I can, because don't forget we are paying 150 quid for this. You might see this here. I can feel that, which I'm very disappointed with, because that is that. Okay, that's the groove. I shouldn't be feeling that right through here. Okay, and I know there's a lot of people out there who will say, well, you're just being picky now, but I can feel that, and I shouldn't be able to. This one here, not so much, I must admit. But there we go, we're looking down at the parts now, generally working our way through. Very nice detail on all of these. Very crisp, very sharp. I do this thing now when I feel the surface. I should be able to feel it sharp. You don't want it soft or anything else, and I can. So on the inside, as I said, a couple of ejector pins. Ejector pins on all the parts, if we're honest, which, as I said, is gonna annoy the hell out of me now, because I really thought we'd got past this sort of thing with other people. Different types of the actual tail cone there, which are going to fit on the back. Some of the smaller parts looking very, very nice. Interesting way they've done this bit here with the gate closed across. You'd think it'd be just held together, but there we go. That's me just being picky now. But again, sad that that's there, I must admit. We'll leave that to one side. Okay, so working our way through here. Beautiful surface texture, very nice on all of that. Hopefully you can see that in the camera. Very nicely done. Again, we've got the tail wheel, the parts and everything else. Now, I'm gonna say it, it's just everything looks a little bit soft. I don't know if I've just been spoilt recently or if I'm just being uber picky here, but I'm just looking at some of these parts thinking they're nice, but they just look soft. I was expecting more crispness, shall we say. Multi-part pilot, literally, as you can probably see on here, he is in 1,000,001 bits. Okay, but as I said, very nice detail on all of these. You've got some incredibly nice, you can probably hopefully see him down here, this guy with all his harnesses and various things, front and rear, coming right the way down. Where's a face? Let's have a look at a face. Sort of a generic face down there. He's not going to win any beauty awards. In fact, this guy looks like he's got his eyes shut and he's moaning. So there we go. But again, very nice. I'm halfway through this kit, and if I'm honest, I'm slightly disappointed. I know I shouldn't be, and I'm sure it'll look brilliant when it's done. I'm just thinking, I don't know. Let me get to the end and then I'll sum up with you and tell you really how I think about this kit. Okay, so we've got usual things. Again, it's wood. You're not going to see any details on this. I don't think, you know, it's missing. What you have got though is beautifully fine detail on all of this. Hopefully the camera's going to get it. It is so fine. Good job we're in HD now. I might have to turn up the setting for a 4K on this one just to see this beautiful riveting detail on all of these parts. All very nice. All the internals we're not worried about because we're not going to see any of those, but these are the activators for the flap system as it's going to go through, but generally looking very nice. Okay, front end of the cockpit. This is the business end. Okay, for this particular mark. Okay, so as you can see down here, very nice. Gives you an idea of the sort of scale of this thing when you know we're actually done here. We're going to be looking, you know, nothing massive, so we're probably looking at an overall of, with the nose, of around about sort of 35 tops. So it's not going to be huge, it's just the wingspan's going to be a lot. Okay, so generally down in here, beautiful work on the bottom of the bomb bay. It feels smooth, although it doesn't look it. Some very nice details. You're going to cut the thing open, I suppose, unless it's got multis. Unless this is one piece and there's another one with multiple parts in there. But generally looking all very nice. Looking at all these smaller parts, clean, crisp, no sign of flash, sink marks or anything else like that on any of the small parts. Internals, as you can see, we've got lots of lumps and bumps down here. This is what it should have. So we're not too worried about all of those. That's looking all very nice in this one, as we can see. And the bomb bay bottom of the doors, and there's the other side, and then obviously a lot of these small parts all down here, as you can see. And then again, I'm sorry, but ejector pin marks, there shouldn't be ejector pin marks in what I call display parts. Okay, I know it's a complex shape, I know it's probably extremely difficult to actually mold 180 degrees and get it out because this is on a full curve. It's just that other companies do it, but this has got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 ejector pins in there to get that out. Which, you know, if you're going to display it and you want to put it on its edge or something, you are going to have to take care of it. This is 1/32. It's a bigger scale. Smaller scales, you can, you know, gleam over things like that. But when you get to this size, people are going to see it. It's going to stand out, especially when you put washes on and things like that. All that detail that you're hoping to hide will come back out and bite you. Okay, so we've got a match pair here. So we've got the different types of props on here. So we've got the standard and the big paddle prop, okay? We've got the different types of nose as well. So you might be able to see you've got a slightly longer nose, different profile in the nose shot on this one here. If we can just drop it in on the close-up there, you might be able to see the little bit of difference between the two. But generally, looking around, no problem with all of this. Slightly soft. With the moulding, as I said, just thought it might be sharper. Again, ejector pin marks riddling the inside of these doors, which is a real shame. Okay, but generally control surfaces all look very nice. The bombs look good, and the props, the bomb bays, sway braces all look very nice, as you can see on all of those. So not too bad there. Okay, into the cockpit. So now we're getting into the nitty-gritty of all the finer details. Okay, so we've got the cockpit floor. Just down in here, as you can see it, looking very nice. Got some nice texture detail there, down there for some, obviously, fabric for covering the gaps in the floor. Generally looking around, we're looking at the instrument panel. Looks like we've got full size sort of bezels and various things down in there. All looking nice. We've got under detail as well. Looking quite good. But generally, we pop it in the close up, take a slow glance. You can see it is very nice. All good. Can't see any real problems with any of that. All of those smaller parts looking very, very nice indeed. Okay, so 130 quid. Yeah, it's around about 130 quid in the UK. I know I said it's 150 quid. That's its full price. You can pick it up for around about 130 quid if you look online. So, you know, it's a big kit. You do get a lot of money on. Perhaps I'm being uber picky now. I don't know. Engines, as we can imagine, well, and guns. We got smaller parts, so we got manifolds, we got tops of the things, air scoops, things like that. Lots of the smaller details down in all of this, as you can imagine. We've got lots going on down here. We take a slow wander. As you can see, it's very clean, crisp, sharp moulding on some areas. Other areas, I just think they're a little bit soft. These guys over here, I don't know, just look a little bit soft. I thought they'd be a bit sharper. Okay, it's a good quality styrene. It's thick, it's heavy, and all the rest of it. It's just that I don't know. Just does send to me a lot, and I mean a lot, of ejector pins on stuff you think, really, do you need them? You know, it's like everything seems to have an ejector pin stamped on it somewhere. Okay, this guy here is the one we just looked at, so that's a match one for that one. Okay, right, so this is the main wing spar, the box section that the wing is all going to bolt to, and everything on like that. So as you can imagine, sits in there. A little bit of detail down there, and then obviously the underside. So this is the tops of the nacelles as you look through. It's got a little bit of cabling detail, things like that going through in there, and generally looks to be a very nice, strong, everything screws to it, don't forget. So it looks pretty good, all of that. This is your instrument panel that we've got down here, full depth for all the bezels for the instruments going through. These aren't just like on the front, they are all the way through, so that's a very nice touch on that one. We like the look of that. And generally all the little trim wheels and various things, controls, the throttles, and all of those areas like that are looking extremely nice on all of this. Very good with it all. I can't see any problems. I haven't seen any flash, any sink marks, and any mismolds or anything, but this is Tamiya, don't forget, so I should think we'd be fine. Something I really do like is this texture on the fabric. You might catch it in the light. It's got extremely nice texture. Everything has that sort of worn, padded look. So once the time it's been dry painted, dry brushed, perhaps a wash on it as well, it should really look the part. Okay, are we there yet, Phil? No, we're not. We've still got a lot to go. Okay, so in bag number, God knows where we are now, but I know it's getting tight. Okay, what do we have down here? We have the actual backs of the nacelles on here, both sides, and the first parts for sort of the framing work. Again, the detail is absolutely beautiful. Catch it in the light. It's absolutely stunning on these parts. Very nicely done. Again, inside is loaded with ejector pins, unfortunately, but that's it. I'm going to stop going on about them now. I probably won't, actually. Some nice detail. Got some nice details down in here, all very nice down there. We've got these wing tanks, the blended ones, looking very nice all the way through. Again, it's almost there, almost quite. Match pair, this is your Merlin engine, which I said, they haven't actually probably done any work on this because they've just taken it from the Spitfire and Mustang kits. Almost lost a pit. Okay, so usual thing, exactly the same. Some very nice details on here. It looks like it goes together the same as the other ones right the way through. So a nice detailed paint job on that one, and you'll have a magical looking Merlin. Absolutely fantastic. Get that, magical Merlin? No? Okay. So let me just pop this in because I've managed to hoof a part off the screw. I want to keep that safe. Okay. Last big sprue. We have the famous wheels. Is this a generic too? Yes, it is. Okay, so two part. So this is the wheel section we were talking about. That's why it looks all a little bit odd like this. As you see, you've got the outer, no problem at all. Then this is your tread blocks with weighted wheels. So you do get a flat one, and then obviously the curved one on all your others. You've got various details down here for the actual framework. This is the gear one we were talking about, which doesn't look as strong now as I see it in the flesh as it did look on the thing. I don't know, maybe. It should be okay, I think it'll be right. By the time it's done, it's just, it looks like a very weak join when you think all the weight of this model is on this point, you know, and that's it. It is a tiny, small point for it to be on, but I think we'll get away with it. Generally looking around, a couple of ejector pins, and I'm off again, just down on there, which we wouldn't like to see. Different types of hubs, so you've got obviously different types down there for different versions. Okay, but generally all the pipe work, the brake lines, things like that, all look extremely fine. Very, very nice. Nice detail, little details like this I absolutely love. This is the fabric or the rubber sort of gator boots for the suspension system. It looks absolutely beautiful done. It's fantastic. No problem with that at all. But generally, I'll be quite interested, and I can't wait to do this tyre and see how well it looks, because it should be an absolutely brilliant idea. Whoever thought of that one in the little office down there needs a pay rise. Okay, so clear parts. Let's see how clear the clearest of clear is. Nicely packaged and protected. So we're in a bag, within a bag, within a bag, stuck between bag. Okay, so That is absolutely stunning. That's the clearest of clear I've seen, and that's on a curve as well. That is absolutely pin sharp. Hopefully the camera will do this justice. In fact, if you can't see the glass, it's because it's too that's how good it is. And here's the inside. Absolutely fantastic. That is brilliant. Now, Tamiya in the past have had some problems with their clear stuff, to the point of, we all remember their F16s. There's a slightest, but you're really being picky now, tiny little bit of wobble in the front windscreen on the port side, but you would really have to be picky to notice that. It's only because I'm catching it literally in the light. I don't know if you guys can catch it in the light if I try and deflect it across, but there is a slight wobble on that front, but that is me being uber picky. Okay, so some of the other parts, which obviously I'd rather see them as a photo etch, but this is the grills for the engines, instrument panels, gun sights, things like that, as you can imagine, lights, goggles. So we've got 3 goggles there for the pilots, very nice, for the crew, and the lights and everything else, but those are gorgeous. These are absolutely beautifully done. We've got the bulged side window or the flat you can have, so we've got one or the other, slightly bulged or the flat one, but again, if you can't see them on camera, that's because they are so good. But you might notice hardly any distortion. This one you're going to get it because obviously it's bulged, but the flat one's absolutely beautifully done. They are very, very nice, and before I wreck it, I'm going to rebag it because we don't want to wreck it. Okay, just pop all those back in. Okay, what else have we got? So, stuck. This is glued on, taped on, glued on. So down here we've got a little bit of photo etch. So just see how thick this is. Now again, one of my criticisms with Tamiya's photo etch is it's steel, as in, i.e. it's magnetic. I've lost my magnet. This one isn't. Okay, but it's very, very thick. It's not like a thin sheet of brass. This is really thick stuff. But what we've actually got down here, you can probably see various formers, which we spoke about actually in the actual instructions. We've got harnesses, I do believe, looks like bits and pieces down there. Instrument bezels, various details, some bulkheads and everything else like that. Some extremely nice photo etch stuff there. And then this guy is the rest of the harnesses. Again, we have got some grills there, but it's not the ones I was looking at on the clear parts. But again, some very nice. We've got the harnesses and all things like that. Personally, I would wait and get some fabric ones. I think they'll look a lot better in here, just to have them chucked in rather than go down the photo etch route. But if you wanted to go straight out of the box, you could do it without a problem. Some grills down there for the actual intakes and stuff like that. Beautifully done. Okay, and the last bit up, we've got the decals. So, heat dotted. Yeah. So this guy down here is literally just your mask set, which isn't die cut, which, oh, what is the point? It's like, oh, it's there. So what you have to do now is go around and cut all this out yourself, and let's face it, it's never going to be brilliant. So I would wait for a die cut one to come out, and I'm sure the guys over at Edard have probably got that queued up as we speak, or just do it yourself, because by the time you try to cut around that, it's a nightmare. Okay, so we've got some nice metal colour ones down here. Some very nice details, extremely clean, crisp. I can read all the actual areas and signs and warning things and tail slings, right the way down to the smallest one. I can read it, so that is very, very nice indeed. Right the way through, we've got some crew markings as well. If you look down here, and we've even got a little map, which is a great little touch on that one, as you can see. But even this metal stuff, catch it in the light, looks absolutely fantastic. Some nice stuff down there. This is your instruments, so don't panic when they look like that. They're supposed to. When you put them on, they'll look fine. It's a bit like everyone said the Tamiya one for the Spitfire when it first came out. They printed it wrong. It's on the inside. Okay, so you actually put that as is, flat down. So take it off and then just push it down, and then from the inside you'll see all the instruments and the bezels and all the bits and pieces. That's very nice. Then we've got the actual instructions themselves. Sorry, the markings themselves. Again, big, not many of them for this bigger stuff and all the rest of it, but as you can see, very nice. Those would wind me up. I don't like doing those at all. These are the ones for the actual ends of the prop. By the time you've done that, you might as well just paint them yourself. Okay, but generally pretty good, all of that. Very nice, very satin finished. Should be okay. It's a shame we've got a lot of carrier film in between all of these. It'd be nice if they were closely done out, but we can understand why they're doing it. Just trying to keep it in one. And this one down we keep off. Silvering could be a problem in the middle of that, so just make sure you get plenty of micro set and so on all of those, but beautifully printed the same. And that is it. So, summing up, what am I disappointed with and why aren't I jumping up and down? I'm disappointed we got ejector pins everywhere on this thing. This thing is absolutely covered in it. Now the trouble is, when you start doing 1/32, as I said before, you're gonna see all the little details and it's very hard to sort of hide them away. When you're in 48 scale and certainly 72nd, you can get away with various bits and pieces. When you're in the bigger scales, things look bigger and there's larger areas. So when you've got an ejector pin sat in the middle of it, it's not like it's a bit half covering it and you can get away with it. You're gonna have to take care of it. And this thing is absolutely covered in ejector pins. And then we have this problem of a sink mark, which I can physically feel through the surface. This isn't just a thing you can see. I can feel that. There's actually a lump running down here, which is very disappointing. Because all it is, it's where it's very thin and the temperature of the actual mold, perhaps a little bit hot, or it's come out a little bit soon, but whatever it is, it's actually formed through. So that's a little bit disappointing on there for something on this kit. The detail is absolutely stunning, don't get me wrong, but I'm just finding it a little bit softly molded. I thought Tamiya, let's face it, they do this extremely fine recess paneling and recess riveting detail. It is absolutely amazing. But I've reviewed kits now recently which are better at doing the sharper internals. Okay, so sometimes you run your finger over them and they are absolutely cut your finger open. They are that sharp, extremely well done. And they don't have ejector pins in the middle of it all, and all the rest of it you have to take care of. So some of the parts, just the smaller ones going around, it's just like this bulkhead, for instance, here. It's not shouting out that it's sharp and it's really nice. It looks quite clunky, it looks big and it's chucked in. Now I know we're on a larger scale, so we're going to get that. We're on 1/32, and I know I'm being picky because you're never going to see it. I'm just thinking here, Tamiya always raise the bar with every single kit they do, but this particular one, I don't see it as a massive jump. Now, if you want my opinion, you go and get this kit, don't get the Hong Kong models one, because this one is the better brother, shall we say. Okay, this is, you know, you can have your lesser one, which is obviously the HK models one, which, don't get me wrong, is a fantastic one, and for an overall present is absolutely beautiful, but it needs a few little bits and pieces to get it up to this level. Okay, you might want to go down the aftermarket route for a few bits and pieces. This thing, I don't think you need aftermarket. I would chuck in some harnesses, if I'm honest, if you're not going to have the crew in. I would put in some fabric harnesses. I'm not sure if they're out now, I'm sure they will be. That's all that this thing really needs. Okay, some different markings, admittedly, it's quite limited on the markings option. But from my point of view, you could build this straight out of the box and have no problem with it at all. I'm just slightly disappointed that we've got so many ejector pins on here. I've got this slight movement on the fuselage, which I'm sure you'll never see it. It's just from my point of view, I don't expect it from Tamiya. It's 150 quid, okay, 130 quid in the real world. You do get a lot of plastic for your money. I've got this pile now sat here that's huge. It's actually very well crammed into a box. I thought the box would be bigger. They've obviously got it into the size where they're happy with it, but it's just that from the point of view, it's 130 quid. I think it's still a bargain. I think it's still going to take you quite a while to do it, or if you take your time and working your way through it, or you're going to come out with an absolutely stunning Mosquito. I think it's the best Mosquito. I've seen the HK one. This one is a lot better. The details, the refinedness, and everything else on this one just smacks quality, where the HK one just is a little bit old school. It's like HK models, they're a new company, they're producing great kits, just they're not quite up to this level yet. So I'm thinking, if you are going to go down the line and you do want to have a Mosquito, I would definitely do the Tamiya one over the HK one, if you wanted my opinion. But side by side, externally wise, without looking at all the details and flipping it over and looking in the engines and all those things like that, I don't think you're going to really notice it because there isn't much detail on the surface of these things. They are wooden, so from an external point of view, there isn't much in it, but from an internal point of view, this kit just gives you so much more. And from a modeler's point of view, you know all the work you've put in this nose section, all the work that's gone in the cockpit, each one of these engines. It's not like one's open and one's closed. You've got to build both engines. You've got to go right the way through it all, and then right the way through to the formers running through and the tail wheel section and everything else. It's an incredible level of detail, and I think it's an incredible kit. I'm going to build it as soon as I clear some room for my schedule. I've got a few projects on the go at the moment, as you know, and then I'm going to build this one because I really want to get my teeth into it and just see how well it goes together. It's Tamiya. I imagine it's going to be a beautiful fit and we're going to have no problems. It's just that I would really like this one in my collection. So there we go. That is Tamiya's brand new 132nd. If you want to give me a score, I give it an 8 out of 10. It's not perfect. It does have flaws. I would love to see their next big project not have ejector pins everywhere on it. As I said, Wingnut Wings, they can bring out the Felixstowe monster, huge wing sections on it without an ejector pin on it. Why can't Tamiya? That's my only thing. But there we go. It's still a great kit, and I still recommend you go and get one.